couple practices now. What's your take, your thoughts on how everybody's sort of coming together, getting this this new team together now?
Very happy with attitudes. Guys are having fun. They're enjoying practice. They've been waiting a long time to get back out on the field. Spring ball is a great time because you're not worried about an opponent. You get to make yourself better. And for coaches, that's a blast. You know, another thing that's really neat for us is we're trying a lot of new guys in different spots. And we've had a lot of guys that haven't played that are getting reps in different spots. And so with that, it's a learning process. And it's for coaches, that's what we're in the business for. It's fun for us.
Who are some of those guys that are getting reps, new places, new spots?
Well, the quarterbacks. We got a couple new quarterbacks. One that graduated early, Travis, who hasn't played a lot because of injuries, back in the fold, and the transfer Dakota. You know, last year we played 4 running backs, but we didn't. We're trying to do some different things with those guys. You know, evening out the reps. And then we're playing a lot of offensive linemen that have never played for us. We redshirted last year that are all doing good things.
So what about Charles Nelson? Has he been on the offensive side of the ball a lot? Or?
Yeah, we're still doing both. Right now he's focusing on offense. But that's kind of a work in progress. We haven't decided what we're going to do there. But right now we're focusing on offense.
You didn't sign anybody in running back. Is Kurt Merritt maybe in the somebody else maybe as a running back?
Kurt Merritt is working outside right now as a receiver, and then our running backs are Royce, Taj, Tony, and Kanai.
Dakota was saying yesterday that he's new, he's learning, he's still getting used to it. In the short time that you've sort of been around him, short time that you've seen him practice, what's your sort of early assessment?
His attitude's been incredible. He's doing everything that he can possibly do to get better. And that to play in his situation, and really anyone's situation, when you haven't played before, you have to do a lot of time off the field, and he's doing that. I mean, when he's not in class, he lives in our building, and he's doing everything he can do to be successful. The hardest thing is it's a whole new language. Even though he's experienced and he's played football before, it's learning and processing before you can even play. And so he's just starting to pick that up, and each day you can tell he's getting more comfortable.
So did Coach Neal put up a big fight for Charles?
Well, he got here a little bit late, so I don't think he really understood what was going on. So we kind of snuck that in on him. Like I said, it's still up for grabs. And I know they would be happy to have Charles full time as well. That's the neat thing about Charles is as a coach, he gives you a ton of options. But you know, last year he focused primarily on defense, and this year we want to make sure that he has a good foundation for offense, and then he still has the flexibility to do both.
Talking with Greatwood, he said, as an offensive coordinator, you're a little bit more detail-oriented, maybe than Scott Frost was. I'm wondering, what kind of role do you want to develop as an offensive coordinator? I mean, what do you want to bring to this position?
You know, I don't know about that. I know I am anal on things. Maybe that's what he was referring to. But the biggest thing as an offensive coordinator, it hasn't changed my role a lot other than I'm organizing more things, the whole general picture. I'm real fortunate because we have good coaches, you know, and that's our players' attitude's been great, and they should be because they're eager to get on the field. Our coaches' attitude's been every bit as good, if not better, as far as just everyone doing their job and helping me out, making my job really easy.
I know you guys have your idea of what Oregon football is, but with the new quarterbacks coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterbacks coming in, do you feel like that idea of Oregon football is changing a little bit on the offense?
Well, I hope not. When you think of Oregon football, I hope you think of good offense. I hope that part's not changing. You know, we're always trying to get better at the things we do. We always study other people, and so, you know, we're always going to have our base offense that we want to improve on, but there's going to be a wrinkle here and there. And so in that part, you never want to stay the same. You're going to get better and get worse. So there's always some new things, but it's not a big change. I think people, when they watch our offense, hopefully they'll see us just get better at what we've already been doing.
Greatwood's voice is also getting a bit hoarse, saying, yelling at a few people just for the start of spring ball. Wondering how you're adjusting to these first few days.
That's good. Similar, you know, we play the music so loud, sometimes they can't hear you no matter how loud you are. You know, and Coach Greatwood's doing a great job. That's a big question mark for us. When I say question marks, it's got a bunch of guys that we're very excited about, but they're unproven, and so everything's new to those guys. And so every day they get a ton better, but it's a lot of little things. And so it doesn't matter how much the coaches know, it's about how much our players know. And like I said, they're doing everything we can, or they're doing everything they can to everything that we're asking of them. But we got, as coaches, what we're trying to do is just keep it simple so our guys can play. And that's our biggest challenge. We all have a whole bunch of ideas, but what can our guys handle and execute and play fast at?
How are you distributing reps at quarterback right now?
So we're giving Dakota a lot of it's hard to rep 5 guys, but right now with Dakota in the mix, Travis and Terry, we want to give those guys the majority of the reps. And what we've explained to Jeff and Taylor, and they've been awesome, they've been studs. If you're new, the only way you can really learn what's going on is you have to be thrown into the fire. Okay, so we're throwing those guys into the fire. And they haven't proven it yet, they got to still prove it, but we want to see what they can do, and the only way you can do that is give those guys the majority of the reps. And so that's kind of what we've been doing.
And how's Terry looking so far?
Really good, really good. You know, there's so many things that go through a quarterback's head when he gets up to the line of scrimmage just to get the snap, to read the signal and to get the snap. And then that was day 1. And now today, you could tell he was just so much more confident going out there. Okay, I understand that. I know how to line up. I can get the snap, and seeing everyone else and how everything else works. That's the biggest challenge of a quarterback, is they've got to know everyone's position. So it's harder, and the learning curve is a lot bigger. But his attitude's been awesome. You know, that's what we've told him and all those young guys. We know you're going to make a ton of mistakes. That's how you learn. If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not pushing the envelope. But we want you not to dwell on it. Learn from it and move on. And they've done great about that. You know, they're making mistakes, but they're moving on from them, and they're not making the same mistake twice.
Yesterday, Dakota said that Tyler Osborne was critical for him to even know what he was doing. What's his role within the offense, and then how's he been helping the quarterbacks?
Sure. Well, with Tyler and Matt Neuer, those guys are quality controls / graduate assistants, and so they're allowed to, on their own time, if a quarterback wants extra information or wants to get with someone, they're allowed to help that guy out, and they do a great job. You know, and that's a big reason. You know, we push hard going into this spring to make sure those guys had roles with our football team, and they're taking advantage of them. And the reason they earned those roles is because of what they did last year.
At this time last year, you were in a different role. How are you adjusting to your new job?
Well, I'm enjoying it. You know, each day is a little bit different. There's new stuff. Again, what makes my job easy is I'm around a bunch of great coaches that make it easy on me. And what a coordinator does is just kind of interacts with other people and tries to organize the big picture. But it hasn't changed a ton. You know, I'm still coaching the receivers. I try to get a little more involved with the other positions, and just making sure, you know, what time we're meeting, what time we're stopping. Hey, let's do a little more of this or a little less in this. And but it hasn't changed a ton. I still get here early and leave the exact same time, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
Pads aren't on yet, but are you seeing the athletic ability, the speed, the quickness in Dylan Mitchell that you thought you would see on film?
Sure, and that's very hard for a new guy to play with speed that we saw on tape, because they're thinking. And that's our goal as coaches, to get those guys to not think and just play. Because then they actually play their speed. Even Devin Allen, who's one of the fastest people in the U.S., when he got here, he looked slow, because he would get the signal, think, and then wouldn't play fast because he was thinking. So it takes those guys time. That's our biggest challenge as coaches, to get those guys in a process where they don't have to think, they can just react and just run. But he's ahead of where I thought he would be. He really is, and he's a special talent.
Coach Greatwood said things seem a little bit more organized under you this spring than maybe they had been in the past. What is that? Are you just kind of meticulous in terms of planning?
I've been accused of being over anal on different things, you know, and sometimes there's good and bad to that. You can be too organized and get caught up in too many details and sometimes miss a big picture, so there's a balance that I'm working on. But I do. I like to have things mapped out in my head. If I feel unprepared, I'm miserable. So I'm going to do everything I can to be prepared, whether it's a practice, whether it's a meeting, and make sure we're all on the same page. That makes me sleep better at night. But again, there's a big picture to that. It wasn't like we weren't organized before. I mean, Coach Frost was unbelievable, and I've learned a ton from him, and he's one of the best guys I've been around. And one of his biggest strengths was he could adjust on the fly. Okay, and that's a big part of our offense, is being able to think fast and make quick decisions, so your players can play fast. And so sometimes there's a balance. If you get a little bit too regimented or too organized, you suffer in the other areas. That's something I'm working on.
Wayne Benjamin, any word on him?
Wayne Benjamin, no, but we'd be happy to have him. I heard there's a rumor that he was thinking about coming out, and you know, first off, when it comes to our basketball team, me personally, and our football team could not be more proud of what they're to be an Oregon Duck and see what those guys did. They have the best season in the history of Oregon basketball, and just to be a fan and a fly on the wall is something special. And knowing how those guys coach, the type of people they are, they're even better people than they are coaches and players. I mean, I'm lucky to be a fan of those guys. But yeah, Dwayne Benjamin, if he comes out, we'd be jacked. Like, we had a great experience with Jonathan Lloyd, but I know he has, I'm sure he has other things he has to weigh as well.
Where would you put a 6'7" guy anyway?
We'd find a place. Yeah, that gives us a lot of options. We'd have fun finding a place.
He was an all-state football player in high school.
I heard that. I saw his film. I'd love to have him. They say he's good. There's a transition, and kind of a learning experience with Jonathan Lloyd. Just it's a whole different system and a different language, and get him to understand it so he can execute it would be a challenge. But I've heard his attitude's unbelievable. And that's the whole thing. You got to have a good attitude. You got to put in work off the field, and as long as he would do that, he would help us.
I apologize if you've already been asked, but who's standing out to you so far? I know only 2 days, no pads, but who's standing out so far?
You know, I love the attitude of the quarterbacks because it's all new, and the way they're competing, smile on their face, they're making mistakes, they're not letting them get down, they're moving on to the next play. So really, all three quarterbacks have shown something. The new guys, the other guys have been pros too. Taylor Alley, Jeff Locke could not have better attitudes. Okay, big thing of a character indicator to me is the way those guys have embraced these new guys and went out of their way to help them. That says a lot about those guys. You know, they want to win. They're more concerned about us winning than they are about their personal goals. So their attitude and the way the quarterbacks just came out with I just want to learn like a sponge, those guys have jumped out. But it's really every position. You know, at running back, we played a lot of guys last year. We're moving guys around and doing different things. And in order to do that, they've got to have a sense of urgency, and they've got to do some stuff off the field to do that, and they've done that. So all four running backs have done great. The young offensive linemen, for us to actually have a practice, they've had to do a ton on their own just so we can function, and they've done it. And so it's enabling us. We haven't slowed a beat. We're installing the same way when we had the more experienced team as we are now with the less experienced team, which is a credit to Coach Wood, but also the attitudes of those offensive linemen. You know, I'm happy with Farrell Brown. You know, he's came back and he's practicing with us, and his attitude and what he can do. I think he's ahead of the curve in the healing process. Has been very impressive. You know, and the new guy Dylan Mitchell, who made the jump here out of high school and left his senior year. You always worry about guys getting homesick and just adjusting. And he's adjusted like he's already been here for 2 years. Darren Carrington, he's starting to become a leader for us, not just at the receiving corps, at every position, because the way he practices. He takes advantage of every rep to get better, and is at a high level. And whether you point that out to the offensive line, the running backs, the quarterbacks, he shows the whole team this is how we do it. And so that's been very impressive. You know, you could go on and on down the road. There's not. Let's put it this way. There's not a guy that I'm disappointed in. You know, because you could talk about there's 21 guys on offense with their attitude and the way they're competing. You can say something nice about them.
One question about the quarterbacks. It's my contention that even on Mariota, when he didn't win,